Welcome everybody to another lunch dev conversation. We're super excited to have you today. We are really in a great spot today. Michael and I were having lunch one day, and he's like, "Hey, I'll come on and do a thing about Remix." And that day is today. He's here. So many of you joined to learn about Remix. There's so much exciting hype around Remix. So yeah, that's good. We're super excited to have this event today. This community is all about just like learning together, growing together, creating together. So if you want to hang out with us, you can go to events.lunch.dev/discord and hang out with us and just have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun together. We have a new code of conduct too. So if you're brand new here, you can check that out. It's in the welcome channel. Or at events.lunch.dev/code-of-conduct. And then I think that's it. I think that's all that we need to cover. We're going to be hanging out in the, live event text channel. You can type as Michael's typing and talk there. And then just, if you can, just kind of keep it on mute. Maybe keep the video off to keep the stream nice and tidy for everybody else. And then if you have questions, I think Michael will invite those, or you can pass them to Ben, mention Ben or I, and then we can kind of interject those as needed. So that's all. Without any further ado, thank you for being here. We're glad you're here. And Michael Jackson, take it away.
Hey, thank you. Thanks everybody for coming out to this lunchtime chat. I'm really happy that you're here. I have, in case, just by way of introduction, in case you don't know me, my name is Michael Jackson. I actually live here in Carlsbad, California. Michael Chan lives right next door in Vista, and so we get to hang out a lot, which is kind of fun. I mean, kind of fun. It's awesome. And and a couple of things that I've done. I built React Router. Currently work on that as well. And I'm working on a new project called Remix, which is built on top of React Router. So if you've used React Router, you know what it is. It basically allows you to show different screens as the user is kind of clicking around your site. As people are clicking around your site, you get links and you get different routes that allow you to show different components as the URL changes. And so it's a way to build an entire site with React as opposed to just like building little components. So we built React Router in 2000 and I want to say like 2015 is when we released it. Golly, it seems like forever ago. And that is a long time. And we're still working on it. The cool thing about Remix is it's, like I said, it's built on top of React Router. So everything, so it's built on top of React Router v6. So a lot of the stuff that we're actually doing in Remix is going to inform React Router development and is actually going to make it back into React Router. So we've got kind of this dual arms of our company right now. We have React Router, which is the open source arm, and then Remix, which is this paid framework on top of React Router. But again, by supporting Remix, a lot of that stuff makes it back into open source, which is cool. And React Router is actually going to be really, really, it's going to get a lot of cool stuff from Remix. So today, I just wanted to give you kind of a preview of some of the stuff that we've been working on with Remix. We are still right now in we're calling it a supporter preview phase. Things are changing very quickly, like breaking changes every couple of weeks. We do try and publish really comprehensive upgrade guides for you, so don't be too scared. Like it's fun to get in there, and we're kind of learning and discovering things together. But it's just getting better, and we're in like heavy development mode right now. So I was telling Michael Chan before the stream started, I was saying, my brain is already like a couple of weeks ahead with like the next release that I was literally just working on this morning and last night. And then I was like, okay, no, current release. Gotta focus on the current release. Okay, so hopefully I won't flood that up too bad today. And this, I would love to get your feedback about what the demonstration that I'm going to do today, because this is actually in preparation for a talk that I'm giving at, I think it's called React Summit in April. And so this talk is kind of a precursor to that one, just kind of prepping some stuff. So anyway, so I wanted to, I thought, I was thinking, what would be a good way to kind of demo what you can do with Remix, because there really is so much there. There's so much that goes into building a web application these days. There's the markup, and there's server rendering, and there's CSS, and there's error handling, and there's suspense and data fetching, and preloading and prefetching, and links and navigation and transitions, and there's so much stuff, sessions and cookies. And so I thought, well, I'll try and build a demo that I think kind of gives you a little bit of a feel for what it's like to use Remix. And then you can, maybe just ask some questions about it, and we'll kind of go from there. So I've got a pretty basic Remix app here. I've added a few things to it. So I'm starting with the Remix starter template that we have for Express. So right now, we have starters for Architect, which is a wrapper around AWS services, around AWS Lambda. We have a starter for Vercel, which a lot of you probably know because they build Next.js. And then we have this starter for Express, which is just, you're running a vanilla Express server. Maybe you're running on Heroku or something. And so you're just firing up your own Express server. We have starters in the works for Netlify. That one is already pretty close to being done. Firebase. You get the idea. Basically, you can take Remix and you can deploy it anywhere you want. So what I'm using today is I'm starting with the Express starter, and I'm just running Express locally on my laptop, and that'll be what we're using today. But there's a lot of different places you can run it. Can you, Michael Chan, can you hear the piano in the background?
I can, but it adds some nice context. Yeah, it
One of my children just started practicing the piano.
just a little bit of
Um,
flavor. It's great. It's great. It's that work from home life. It's perfect.
oh my gosh. All right. Well, if it gets annoying, let me know and I'll go yell at him. But I think he's fine. I just had my 14-year-old upstairs. He was like, he's learning the guitar, so I play guitar and he's learning the guitar, and he was just wailing on this like Shawn Mendes song or something. I was like, dude, I'm gonna do a live stream. Just keep it down. So anyway, all right. So this is what I'm starting with. I'm starting with the Express starter. I added Tailwind CSS. Might be familiar with that. Tailwind is running over here, and I just to pull back the covers a little bit on what I've got going here. I'm running Tailwind with I'm just running Tailwind through post CSS. So I'm just going to run this watcher, and it's going to take everything in my styles directory. And I've got a couple of CSS files here that we can use to style things. I've got this global one that's pulling in all the Tailwind stuff. And this watcher here is just going to take these files, and it's going to dump them into my app directory. So my app styles directory specifically. So the app directory is kind of where everything lives in a Remix app. And I've got a couple of things in here. I'm going to be building a login page today. So I've got a couple of things in here to help me out. We'll create that one from scratch. But I've got just like a little users database here. And the styles directory we know is being generated by PostCSS. And then these files are the ones that Remix kind of gives you to get started. Okay, so you'll notice we have entry client and entry server. So Remix is a fully server rendered React framework. In fact, we're doing like so much on the server. We're rendering React Router on the server. And then, when the HTML is rendered on the server, then we send it to the browser, and then JavaScript lands and it hydrates the page, and then things become sort of interactive. But Remix is server rendered first. So you can take a look at your server entry point. And this is your entry point. This is your playground, your chance to say, here's how I want to render the whole page, basically. And so, here we're just using React DOM server render to string. You could render to a node stream if you want. And then we're returning a response here. So this response is we are actually building the Remix API on the fetch API primitives. So if you've ever used the fetch function in the browser, you say fetch something. This isn't well, I'll just punch some code out here. When you say fetch some URL, this thing you get back is actually this is a response. Similarly, when you say, or sorry, you have to wait that thing. Similarly, when you actually do a fetch in the background, a request object is created. So there's a request primitive as well. So a couple of other primitives, but this one is the same one that you know and love from the fetch API, and we're building on that. And so we've kind of built out this this kind of layer so that you can build any kind of we can build onto all of these various platforms because they all have their different HTTP server API, right? If you're going to build on AWS Lambda, if you're going to build on Netlify functions, if you're going to build on Cloudflare workers, everybody has their own idea, or just a raw node express server. Everybody has their own idea of, what do these request and response objects look like? What are the right primitives? We just went with the Web Fetch API. And so we kind of do some translation in our various adapter packages for the different servers that we deploy to. But anyway, here's your server entry file. Your client entry file has a big fat TS ignore in it, but ignore the TS ignore. Right now, we're using some third-party types that aren't the best. We're just calling a React DOM hydrate. Okay, just a React DOM hydrate, and React DOM hydrate can actually hydrate the entire document, which is cool. So we're just passing the document in there and then saying get a remix and put it in the document. What is that? What is a remix? Well, it is in both cases we're just getting a remix and rendering it. What is that thing? That thing is your root route. Okay. So if you're familiar with the concept of routes in React Router, or even if you're not, basically the idea is that these routes, they correspond to URLs, and they also nest. They're nested UI, and they correspond to nested URLs. So you can have, the root route is going to be the root UI that renders around everything. And here you can see we're just rendering the HTML document. We're rendering the whole thing. Okay, so you can put your head in there, you can put your body in there, you can put link tags, meta tags, your title, whatever you want. And then this outlet is another primitive from React Router v6. And this basically just says, render my children routes. So whatever goes inside, this is like, the two halves of bread on your sandwich, and this is like whatever goes in the middle, right? And so the outlet is your child routes. So let's take a look at what we're actually rendering here. So we've got this little page that says, "Hey, welcome to Remix." Again, that page is server rendered. So we can go in and we can see, for example, actually, if I just view the source of the page, you'll see we've got real HTML from the server. We're server rendering the whole thing, and yeah. So let's kind of make it look a little bit prettier, right? So right now it's just got this this like basic built-in kind of font. We already said we have some post CSS running here. Well, first of all, let's just go ahead and run the app. So let me go npm run dev. Okay, no whammies, hopefully. All right. So we just fired up this little Express server. It's going to run on port 3000. Okay, there we go. We actually made a request. You can see we've got this little log going down here. So we actually made a request, so we actually served the page. So let's take those styles that we're generating and let's actually get those on the page, because right now the page is super basic. So let's just let's go into our root route. Let's say our entry points are doing just fine. So let's go into our root route, and what I want here is so that your routes can export, they can have different kinds of exports, right? So right now we just have one export, which is the default export, which is the component for this route, okay? I want to get some styles on the page. So I'm going to use an export called links. And I'm going to use TypeScript to help me out here. Okay. Let's import type links function from remix run React. Nope. React. That's the one. Okay, so so the links function. What are you upset about? Oh, I'm going to return some stuff. That makes sense. So the links function is going to return the things that are going to go in the links tag. So this is actually really useful. We could just return like a rel style sheet, and the href. So what href are we going to use? So so we can actually import our style sheet. Let's just call it a URL from, and we use this URL prefix. This is actually going to be in, so I'm in root TSX, so I'm going to pop into this styles directory and grab that global CSS. Styles global.css. I'm going to go ahead and pop that onto the page. Okay. Let's just put it on. Okay, so you notice as I'm writing stuff here, the server is rebuilding the app. Let's go and check it out. Okay, so we have some styles on the page. We pulled in all of Tailwind just so we could get rid of the serifs. How about that? All right, so these links are how you kind of get things on the page. And if we had more time, like this, the links feature actually goes really, really deep. You can put things like media queries on here, and you can say stuff like, when, oh golly, I forget the exact name. It's like prefers, let me get a new line because it's long. You can say media prefers color scheme dark. And then you could go and link to your dark styles. I haven't made any dark styles for this app, but you totally could. And then you can leave this media query off of the link, obviously, and then it's going to load for when they don't prefer dark color schemes. So these link tags are really, really powerful. You can even use them to if you can use them to save the browser having to load and parse an entire style sheet if the user does not prefer dark color schemes, for example. Or and media queries, obviously, what you can do with those. You can do different screen resolutions and things like that, sizes. So really, really powerful, these link tags. We're not going to do dark styles today because I haven't gone to that length for this demo. Okay, so we've got a cool little, we've got a way to kind of load styles on the page. I went ahead and I snagged I snagged some markup from Tailwind UI, and I put it in this sign-in component. So this thing is literally just copy pasted, and I substituted all the class for class name and all those other things. The for I substituted with HTML for, and all those other weird little things you have to do whenever you try and copy HTML to JSX. But anyway, that's that's all I did here. with this page. And so you notice I put it in this routes sign in page. So this routes directory kind of represents the names of these files actually represent URLs. So I can actually go ahead and punch this in. I could say sign in, and I'll get to this sign in page, which again is just copy pasted this markup from Tailwind UI. So they have all these like examples that you can just copy and paste. And I'm not very good at CSS, so that's great for me. So I've got this, this page here, and right now it's just static HTML. I can punch some stuff in here, and it's not going to do anything. Well, it's going to try and make a post, but we haven't set up our server yet, so that's not going to work. But yeah, this is just copy and pasted from Tailwind. So let's actually do something from the main page so that you can get over here, right? So let's go up here. So we've got okay. So we took a look at our root. Our root is where we imported our global styles. So our index route. I've got these two other routes. I've got an index route. I've got a sign-in route. So the index route is the page that we're going to land on. This is the one that's saying, "Hey, welcome to Remix." Okay, and either one of these can be present in the outlet here. I kind of talked about how the outlet is just like whatever goes inside. So it could either be index or sign in right now, either one. So let's decide in the index page, whether or not the user is signed in, and then we can show the right kind of UI, right? We can show the signed in UI or the signed out UI. So if we had a user, let's just say they're null right now, and let's say I've actually got a type for this. So let me grab that real quick. Import type user from let's get the users file. There we go. Okay, so I just built this tiny little like in-memory database. It just gives us a couple of functions. We can validate email password. Right now, everybody's password is password, so not a big deal. And then we can just look up. We've got a little database of users here. Okay. So let's say we've got a user here, and we'll say we'll have another thing down here, and we'll say if we have a user, we'll say show the sign in UI for that user. Okay. Otherwise, we'll just show the signed out UI. Okay. So let's go and create a couple little functions down here. One thing that I really love about React is how you can just be like, oh yeah, I need another component down there. Just pop a couple little components down here in your file. Now, in order to make TypeScript happy, I'm gonna have to say this returns a React element, and so does this one. And I know somebody right now is saying, just use React.fc. That's just not my style. It's just not my MO. I'm a very manual person. Anyway, we'll say user or okay. Sorry if the TypeScript stuff bothers you. I'm going to try and go light on it as I can because it bothers me too. All right. So let's say if you are signed in, we'll just have a little message here. Say, hey, welcome user.name. And then we should probably also have like a form for them to sign out. We'll do that later. I'm not sure if we're gonna have time for sign out, but hopefully we will. Okay, so that's the signed in. That's the signed in page. Let's have a little signed out page here. We'll say, hey, if you're not signed in, we'll just say, hey, you are not signed in. And then let's have a link to the sign in page. Okay. Where do we get link from? That's our good old friend from React Router. So let's go and get link from React Router DOM. React Router document object model. It's a great name for a package right there. All right, so we've got two different pages, and right now we just hard coded our users null. So we should see we should say, hey, you're not signed in. Link to the sign in page. We're there. Okay, cool. Um, so yeah, so let's go over to the sign in page and let's actually let's make this page. Okay, so we give you a couple of things in React. We talked a little bit about some of the extra exports that you get. We talked about the links export. We didn't talk about this one. This is the meta export. This is the way for you to put metadata about your page. So metadata is first class. So put your title there, put your description, put your OG Twitter card, or no, does Twitter use Open Graph? No, that's Facebook. I always forget which one. It's like, yeah, OG image profile, whatever thing. I always have to look them up. I always have to Google them. But anyway, metadata is first class, so we have a function for that. So let's pop in here and let's take a look at this another export, which is called the action. Yeah, let's grab that. I was calling them action for shorthand, and then I was like, no, it's a function. I should call it action function. All right, so the action function we get the request. And this one is super, super useful. So, when we're doing a form post, let's just take a look at that request. When we're doing a form post, it's going to come right in here, right? So let's go and let's check out our form here in the page. So we've got a form with a class name and it's got a method post. So it's going to post directly to this exact same route right here. So let's keep our console open over here, and we should be able to get a post there. Okay, cool. So we have an error here. What's going on? Let's go and read this. So it says, hey, first of all, we logged our request object. That's kind of cool. Remember we were talking about the fetch API, these primitives, the request response things. That's one of these. So your request object came in. And in this case, since we're running on Node, this is a Node fetch request object. So if you're familiar with the Node fetch API, that's what we're using here. So that's what it is. All of the request data, you've got your method, your headers, your URL, etc. And there's a little message here. This one is actually from Remix. It says, you made a post request, but did not return a redirect. Please return a redirect from your action function to avoid reposts when users click the back button. What are we talking about there? Well, let's do what it says, right? Let's return a redirect here. So import redirect, and this one is going to come from remix run data. And so we're going to return a redirect. We're just going to redirect back to the sign in page. So what are we talking about here? Are you familiar with this thing that happens when you do this? Confirm form resubmission, right? You've probably seen that before. Like you submitted a form, you're not sure if it succeeded or not. You're at the next page, you navigate back, it's like confirm form resubmission. You're like, I entered in my credit card details. Is it going to charge me twice? I just bought a plane ticket. Am I going to book another one? Like what's going to happen, right? This is kind of a scary box, I think, on the web. So we have kind of this rule in Remix, and I'm not 100% sure that it's going to play out yet, but I think it's a pretty good one. We have this rule, which is when you have an action, you need to return a redirect out of that action, because otherwise people are going to see the scary box. So let's say that we plowed on through the scary box and we got through and we're fine. But what the redirect does is a redirect prevents that entry from appearing in the history stack at all. right? So somebody goes and they're browsing around your site, and what's the best way to show this? And they can't ever get to that point again using the back and forward buttons. They can't ever get to that scary box again, because you returned a redirect from the post, and so you refresh the page. That page was not produced on the post request. That page was produced on the get that followed the redirect, if that makes sense. So there is no entry in the history stack that corresponds with that post. So anyway, it's a little thing that Remix kind of helps you do. So what's even going on here? We're posting, right? We're posting some form data, and we're just logging the request, right? So by default, forms encode their content as with a content type called application x www form URL encoded. It's weird. It's basically a query string. So what we can do is we can say, let's go get the params out of that. A new URL search params from the await request. Woo, request. Come on now. .text. Okay. Let me make it an async function. Let's check out my form params. See what's up with that. All right. Let's keep my console open again. All right. Let's go back over here and let's enter some stuff and let's take a look. All right. So let's see. I've got some search params here, right? So this is the form data that was submitted, right? It came in the form of a query string in the request body. So we said, go and get the text out of the request stream, parse it using the URL search params API, which again is, so this is actually part of the URL API. So we already talked about how we're building on the fetch API. We're also building on the URL API, which is in Node and in browsers. It's all over the place. So we're going to use that here to go ahead and parse our form data. So we got our email and we got our password. Oh no, you can see my password in clear text. Okay, not a big deal. All right, so what do we want to do in a login form? We want to say, basically, let's get the email. Let's get the password. So using these APIs actually gives us some nice kind of primitives to deal with, right? We've got these get functions, which are nice. I also have well, yeah, we don't need to do this right now, but there is a remember me checkbox in the page. This guy right here, this little remember me checkbox. So we could get that one too. And that's just basically going to be we'll say remember is form params.get remember me. If that one is on, then we want to remember this login attempt. Okay. How many people, have dealt with checkboxes before? Yeah, the default value is on. Don't ask me why. There is no off. Just on or not present. It's not like off when it's not checked. It's just on or it's not in the form params at all. So anyway, that's a little HTMLism for you there. So let's say like this. Let's say let's go and grab our user. Validate credentials. So let's grab that email and password. What if we don't have an email address? Well, we should probably handle that, right? If email is null, we're gonna have an error. Else, if the password is null. Come on, Michael, it's Friday. I don't want to log on and hear about you handling errors. Error handling is like the worst part of programming. Oh, so boring. All right. So we'll just put some comments there. Maybe we'll handle the error. Maybe we won't. Maybe our page will just blow up and then who cares, right? Because we're at home. It's the weekend and pagers are a thing of the past. So we don't even know that our site's busted. All right. Okay. So we got validate credentials. So let's say, and then what if the user is null, right? What if What if we don't have a user? What if the credentials are bad? Well, that's another error. Otherwise, yay, happy path, success, right? Okay, so if we got a user, email and password checked out just fine. Now we need to do what, right? We need to basically save the user information somehow so that we know that they're logged in, right? So this is where we use something called a session. So if you're not familiar with HTTP sessions, you're gonna like this. So let's go ahead. Oh golly, I've taken up way too much time. I'm just rambling on. I'm gonna start going fast here. Ready? Sessions.ts.
You're doing good. We're loving it. I think it's a good it's a good pace.
Is it a
For
good flow?
yeah,
All
yeah, yeah.
right, all
For
right.
for
Well,
for 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 this stuff where it's like all kind of new, it's a good pace.
okay. Well, maybe we'll have to do a part two then, because I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna get to the fun part. um,
Well, you can
okay,
if you want to
so
get to the fun part, you can speed it up, and we can always do another thing.
well, it will. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how
Okay.
it goes. I really love talking about this stuff, and there's so much here that we've done, and I just really want. I think I'm spending too much time on some of the details, but it'll be all right. Okay, so we recently reorganized the packages in the new release. In the current release that I'm using, 0.14, this comes from Remix Run. Cool.
Data comes from Remix Run data.
Ah, damn, gosh, dang it. Can never remember. All right. Good to hear you there, Ryan. I didn't realize you were there.
Yep, keep my microphone off though. Let you do your thing.
Cool. All right. So let's say we're gonna. So so what am I even doing? I am creating a storage object. So we have this idea of a storage for your sessions. Okay, so sessions are these objects that get passed back and forth between the server and the client, between the browser and the client. And in this case, this cookie session storage is really nice and lightweight because we can just keep the whole thing in the cookie. So let's describe what the cookie looks like. We're gonna have a cookie name. I'll just call it __ session. Pro tip, this is the only cookie name that you can use for sessions on Firebase. Yeah, we found that out the hard way. Okay, so you want to give your session cookies a path. If you don't give your cookies a path, the browser is going to be like, oh, this cookie doesn't have a path. I will only send that cookie on the exact same path that it was sent to me on. So for example, if we're at /signin and we send back a cookie with no path, then the browser will only send it back when we are at /signin or one of the subroutes, which we don't want. We want this cookie to be good for auth on the whole site, right? Let's say it's HTTP only, so we can only access it the browser can only access it. We can't access it in client-side JavaScript. We don't need that. That's fine. And let's give it some secrets. So the secrets are, these are for anybody who's ever done any kind of site admin stuff. This is just an array of strings that you're going to use to sign the cookie, and it's an array so you can rotate them. So let's just export get session, commit session, and destroy session. So these are three methods that we can use to actually get the session object. So back in our signing route, let's go and grab this, and let's say import get session and commit session are the ones that we're going to need. All right. So get session and commit session. So the way that these work is you can say, give me my session from request.headers .get a cookie. Okay. So cookies are the things that are actually sent back and forth between the browser. The whole session object is in there when you're using create cookie storage. But it could be just a session ID. For example, if you're keeping your sessions in a database or in a file storage, it could just be a session ID. So the cookie is really just this little transport, it's part of the HTTP protocol the browser will send the cookie, and then what we're going to do is we're going to send a cookie back. So we're going to return a redirect. So in case the sign-in is successful, what we're going to do is we're going to use the set cookie header, and we're going to await commit the session. Okay, but first, what we're going to do is we're going to say session.set user ID to be the user.id. Okay. All right. So that makes sense. So the way that sessions work: input is cookies that the browser sends. Output is the value of the set cookie header to send back to the browser, so that it'll send it back to us, right? So that's kind of how that works. So let's, before I actually sign in, because I don't have a way to sign out yet, I wanted to show you how we might handle these errors as well. So that's the happy path, but we're going to execute that one in just a little bit. Let's go over like some of this error handling as well, because that's something that sessions are also really good for. Oh, I wanted to say this remember flag. If we've got that, so we can have different options. So we have different options when we create the cookie. We also have different options when we serialize it, which is essentially what this commit session is doing, right? So we could say if they click the remember checkbox, then we can say let's keep it around for a week. Otherwise, we're not going to keep it around. Okay, so that's kind of a cool thing that you can do. They tick the box. Let's keep the cookie around for a little while. Oh, they didn't tick the box. Don't keep the cookie around for a while, in which case the cookie will expire when they close the browser tab. So not remembering them. Okay, so the session has a set method, right, where we can use store stuff in the session. What about these error cases? So there's sometimes just this stuff that's like this temporary kind of ephemeral stuff that you want to put in a session, right? Like in this case, we want to just do a flash message. And this is just going to be an error. And then I'll just say something like, please enter your email address. So this word flash comes from, that's like a Railsism. It comes from Rails, where they said like, hey, if you just need to like flash something on the page just for this one request, you can go ahead and use that. We're going to use that here too. We're going to say, please enter your password. And then we can use it one more time here. So we can say, oops, I don't know how I got 2 lines in there. Just wanted that one. So we can use it here to say invalid email and password. Something like that. Okay, so we have a way to, we have a place to put these error messages, but we're not going to hit this return if there are any errors. So what we need to do is in this redirect down here, we're actually going to do the same thing that we were doing up above. We need to have a set cookie header. And we're going to wait. We're going to go ahead and commit the session. Again, the commit session method goes and serializes that session to the value that we need for the set cookie header. So what we're going to do is we're going to have that. And then in the case that we're redirecting to /signin, we're going to have a loader up here. Loader function. Okay, so the loader is kind of like the action. The action is for post and put and delete, like the writes. Okay, the loader is for everything else. It's for the reads, for the get requests. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to go and well, there's a lot of nuance here, but we could say let's go and grab the cookie. Well, what the heck? Let's just just for the sake of time. Let's just grab the whole thing. And let's just say, so what we're going to do here is we basically get the chance to return some data, okay? Some data for our route, okay? So, so our route has, let's see, I'm going to bring in use route data from Remix Run React, and I'm going to use it down here in my component. So I could say let data equal use route data. Ooh, not use reducer. Not that one. Autocomplete is being so helpful. Okay, so the loader this is your way to load anything you want, right? This function is going to run on the server side, so you can go and you can make a fetch. You can go and read from your MySQL database, from Postgres. You can go and make a fetch to GitHub and get some data from there. Whatever APIs that you need to hit, that's fine. And you just give us an object, and then we will give you that data back in use route data in your component. So so let's say here, if there was an error, right? Because we had the session, those error things. Let's say we'll just go ahead and return that. We also give you, so we'll just return that. There's another little nuance here that you're going to need to be aware of, and that is that with these flash messages, as soon as you read them like this, then they disappear from the session. So we actually need to serialize that session again. So I'm going to use JSON here. I'm going to return this as JSON, and I'm going to set the cookie again. I know setting this cookie every single time is a little it's a little pedantic, but we're working on it. Okay, so we have another helper here called the Json Helper. It's just like the redirect helper. It just helps you when you're sending some JSON, and then you might need to tack some headers onto the response. Okay, so let's go and let's check out the failure case first. So let's go over here, and I'm going to go and enter in that and enter in that. Oh! Wait a second. We don't even have the data. Let's let me just put it there, pop up in my console, so I can at least see like what's going on the server render. All right, cool. So I submitted my my form. You'll see that the route data was, hey, we have an error, invalid email and password. This is my server console. So let's go back over and we'll say something like, what if we put I don't know, what if we put an error message right here? What's that going to look like? Text red 600. There was an error. Probably want to like text center that, right? What does that look like? All right, yeah, that looks good. Ooh, that's like kind of dark. That's like blood red. Let's make it a little brighter. Okay. So what we want to do is, if we did have an error, we'll show it like that. There you go. Oh wait, we don't have the error variable. We called it data. Let's call this error like that. Okay, so go ahead and refresh here. Okay, so if I enter in invalid stuff, we get, hey, invalid email password. Okay, cool. So what's going on here is, again, we're processing the post data. We're setting the flash message with an error. We're going to go ahead and serialize that cookie. We're going to get redirected back to sign in. The loader is going to run. So this is now a GET request, right? The loader is going to run, say, hey, let's go grab the error and let's go and pop it in there, okay? You'll notice that, we said commit the session, so that if we actually like refresh this page right now, we don't get a repost. Remember we talked about that. It's just a fresh GET, right? So that error isn't still there. Okay, so that's kind of cool. That's kind of the whole kind of flow there with the loader and the action. Let's actually sign in for real and see if we can get a successful sign in here. Oh, welcome to Remix. You are not signed in. We just signed in. Why aren't we signed in? So let's go back to the index page. So we know that we hit success here, right? Because we got redirected to the slash page, right? To the slash. We know that we hit success, but we hard-coded user to null. Let's go ahead and use a loader in here. And we'll reuse our same session primitives. Let's say let session equals awaiter get session from request headers dot get that cookie. And for the loader here, we will say I guess just return the user is going to be await validate. No. Let's see. I guess we'll say look, you have a user if the session has a user ID in it. Then we'll go and we'll try and get the user via the ID. Otherwise, we'll just say the user's null. There we go. Now we've got our user. All right, cool. So let's use our user route data hook. So let's say get the user from use route data. There it is. And let's pull that back out from my brain is not working. It's already there. Okay. Oh yeah, the auto import thing worked. All right. So we've got the user now in our root routes. Let's go ahead and refresh, and I should be here. Welcome, Michael.
Nice.
Welcome to Remix. Cool.
Nice.
Thank you. That's very nice of you. Welcome me like that. Okay, cool. So we are signed in. Let's get to the sign out. The sign out. The sign out is a route that we haven't even created yet. So let's go ahead and create a new route. We'll call it sign out. Just to complete the circle here. This route isn't going to render anything, so I'm just going to export this default component. Oh, I always forget to write the word function. Anybody else forget to do that? I always forget that. Ryan just sits and laughs.
100%. I do that all the time.
Oh, I'm like, export default this. What, you didn't know that was a function? Give me a break. I put parentheses after it, right? What's wrong? So we need an action here. Action function. Nice. Async, because we are going to destroy the session. I know some of you were excited when I typed that destroy method. It's like the bang in Ruby, right? Like you see that and you're like, oh, it's something exciting is about to happen here. All right. And what we want to do is basically whenever anybody hits this route, we're just gonna get them on out of here, go back to slash, and we're gonna say, hey, your headers are set that cookie, await, destroy the session. Okay. Oh, we need to redirect. Import redirect from remix run data. All right. The piano is going again. Great. All right, so that should work. So in our index route, we've got a form, right, that says, hey, the action is go to the sign out. So this is actually, this is a URL, right? So when we go to this, you know, if we looked at the if we looked at the markup here, we would see in this form, this action right here. This is actually a URL that's gonna hit that we're gonna hit. So we're gonna go hit that URL. Look at the network tab, and then we should end up back here. Let's go and hit that. Oh no, is empty. It's not empty.
Are you?
Huh?
Your form doesn't have method post. That was a get.
I put a get on there. Yeesh. Should I do all caps? Probably doesn't matter. I think the compiler's choking on this too. Oh, you made a post request, but did not provide an action for routes sign out. So there's no way to handle the request. Oh, I think this might be a bug. Yeah, I gave you an action thing. Let me try restarting the compiler. So, that seems like the compiler's upset about something. All right, let's go back here. Try that one more time. We all happy? We're running over here. All right, you go. Okay, so now I'm signed out. That was sometimes when I create like a brand new file and it's like an empty file, the compiler chokes and freaks out, and so it's the thing I need to look into. But anyway, so that's how you destroy the session. So now, boom, you're done. So we're at time here. Golly, I wanted to go over so much more cool stuff. You know, one of the coolest things about this whole page is, guess what? Do you see? Okay, so ignoring this one, do you see any JavaScript here? There's no JavaScript, right? This is the HTML, this is the CSS, this is some stuff for the React Dev Tools, which is not part of our site, and this is the fave icon. So we don't actually have any JavaScript running. And I think you might be asking yourself, well, like, what the heck? This is a React framework, right? React is JavaScript. Yeah, this is a React framework, but this is, more importantly, this is a web framework, right? We are building good websites, and not all pages need JavaScript. In fact, nothing about this flow that we just built actually needs JavaScript. I can go and sign in. I can get errors. I can try again. I could even like preserve these form field values if I wanted to in that session, right? So I don't have to punch them all in again. Everything in this flow that we just made works just fine without JavaScript. Why might you want JavaScript on the page? Well, what if instead of like reloading the page, you wanted to show a little like nice animation or something, right? You wanted to show a nice little a little spinner on the button, while it's being submitted or something like that. And again, I know I'm out of time, so I'm going to try and hurry with this. But something that you could do is so let's see. So here's our form. Here's our form here. So notice this is a lowercase f form. Remix actually ships with a capital F form. So you change one letter from your lowercase f to your capital F. And I need to like minimize some of this stuff because I keep scrolling too much. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so what does capital F form do? Capital F form works the exact same way, except, let's get it, form here. Works the exact same way as your built-in form, except we don't get page reloads. So if I type a bunch of junk in here, and then I submit, we didn't get a full page reload. Oh, no, sorry, golly. That's not working. I have to put JavaScript on the page first. That was exactly what we just did. So you'll notice here in the app, so back up all the way like to the beginning of the presentation, right? We have the meta, we have the links in here. If we drop a scripts element on here, okay, so we just pulled in scripts from Remix Run React. If we drop those on the page, now Now check out the network tab. Now we're in business. All right, so what's going on now? Well, now we've got our bundles on the page, right? We've got React, we've got React DOM, we've got the history library, which is we've got React Router. So this is now this page fully hydrated, right? This is not hydrated. This is hydrated, right? We could have called this the hydrate the page component, right? That's what's going on here. So again, ooh, what did I do? Oh, builder needed time to catch up. All right, so if I come along here and I'm developing this page again, what happened there? Geez, dang it! I should have left the network tab open. Sorry. Let's do it one more time. Right. So we got the same result without a full page refresh. Same result. Okay. So I'm kind of an old guy when it comes to web development. I totally recognize that. We used to have this idea in web development of progressive enhancement. You sometimes see people abbreviate it as PE. This idea that that everything needs to be made with JavaScript it only came around in like the last decade or so, right? All the client-side rendered stuff. Before that, it was like sprinkle a bit of JavaScript on your page, but like HTML is the important thing. HTML is the core. HTML is the page, and then JavaScript can make it interactive. DHTML, right? Dynamic. In other words, you don't always need to hydrate. You don't always need to break out the big React library and load a bunch of JavaScript on the page. You only need to do that if you do want to hydrate and if you do want to do something that's kind of nice, right? So like in this case, you'll notice that the input values did not reset because we did not get a brand new page, right? We went to the server, we submitted, we got the data back, we got the error back, we showed that and we re-rendered, but we didn't clear these inputs. So we could show a loading here. We spinner here. We could have some kind of transition. But anyway, I'm out of time. So, but that was kind of one of the points that I wanted to make was like, Remix. What we're really building it for is we're building it for people who care about building really quality stuff for the web. And so, and if you're doing that, you care about this. You care about progressive enhancement. You care about loading sites quickly. Putting the minimal amount of stuff that actually needs to appear on the page. Something else that was really cool that I kind of glazed over, and this is one of my favorite features of Remix, is you'll notice here. Oh gosh, I didn't put styles on the page. But if I went in here and I wanted some like separate styles on the sign-in page, there are probably quite a few people in here who are like, you might think of yourself as like a designer, right? You kind of specialize on the kind of more of the visual aspect of things. Let's get some styles on here. I think you'll like this one. So let's say go to styles index. So now index.css and put that on the page. href is the styles. So question for those of you who do a lot with styling and think about CSS a lot. How do you get? Why is this red thing complaining at me? Oh, you're fine. What are you complaining about? Whatever, get out of here. Question for those of you who think about CSS. How do you make sure that you just have the minimal amount of CSS on the page? How do you know? Okay, it's there's no one answer to that question. It's a loaded question. There's a bunch of them. In Remix, the approach that we're taking is this. Basically, let me get the scripts off the page to make it a little more clear what's going on. So if I go ahead and refresh this page here, You'll notice before we just had the global CSS on the page. Now we have the global and we have the index CSS on the page. So so what Remix does is React Router has this idea of nested routes, right? And you can have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 routes on the page. We associate the styles with the route itself. So in this case, this index route has some styles associated. Or, golly, where did it go? Yeah, the root route has the one, and then I just added them. I thought I just added them in here. Where did I add them? Oh, I added them to the sign-in page. Sorry. Yeah, I added the wrong one. The index should have been in the index page. But anyway, right now we have 2 routes on the page, right? We have the root route and we have the sign-in route. Okay. When we get out of this route, when we go back to the root page, you'll notice, right, we don't have the sign-in styles on the route. So we go to the sign-in page. Now the extra styles show up, right? And so and it works that way the same for any routes that are on the page. So you only ever have on the page the CSS that is necessary for the routes that are currently on the page, which I think is awesome. For me as a developer, that for me is a huge kind of burden lifted. I don't have to think about, conflicts between, styles between different routes that might be on the page at the same time. Or sorry, different routes that that might be like in share a parent route, for example, because once one route leaves the page, its styles are gone. The new route shows up, its styles are applied. So Remix is taking care of doing, we already saw it's taking care of fetching our data and doing things like that. Remix is also taking care of managing what styles are on the page at any given time. So anyways, I know I'm 10 minutes over now. I like went way over. But I'd be happy if anybody is still around, if you want to ask some questions, or we could go over some stuff in case some stuff wasn't clear. Again, even if you don't have time to stick around now, I'd appreciate your feedback. If you wanted to just like privately message me on the chat or something, because like I said, I'm prepping this for a talk, and somehow I have to cut this down to 20 minutes for next week, which I'm gonna try really hard to do. But happy to take your questions if you got them.
Oh, Michael, hey, this was awesome. This was awesome. This was super cool. There were a ton of like just kind of like head explosion moments in there. Tons of cool stuff. I want to invite anybody who's comfortable with it to turn on their camera, and I think we should be good now. Turn on your camera. You can unmute yourself if you have a question or just want to tell Michael what an awesome job he did. But yeah, I mean, I'll go first. That was amazing, and it's so cool to see. I think the thing that I get most excited about is that transition that you demoed towards the end there, that like lowercase f to like capital case F for the form, and like including the scripts, like all that stuff at the end just seemed really magical, really well designed and considered. But who else has questions and wants to get a chance to ask Michael or Ryan?
Yeah, it's so important to be able to like progressively enhance the site, right? I think we all got to this point where we were just like, well, I'm building my site with JavaScript, and who cares about, like the argument I think was like, well, everybody's got JavaScript, and yeah, everybody does, right? But that's not why we're leaving JavaScript. That's not how we decide whether or not to put it on the page, right? We decide, how to put it, why to put it on the page, because we want to speed it up. We want it to be fast. We don't want people to be loading stuff that they don't have to load, So it's just it's really is a progressive enhancement conversation. It's not well, everybody has JavaScript, so why not put 500 kilobytes of JavaScript on the page,
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, also my co-founder Ryan is here. In case any of you don't know Ryan, there he is with the hat. Ryan is the other half of this whole outfit. So a lot of the ideas and things that I just discussed were, we shared and shared, implementing and stuff. So, but yeah, happy to take any questions if you got
I
them.
have a question.
Yeah. What's up?
I might have missed it because I was bouncing in and out. But did you show anything like where you have shared validation between your loaders and your client? Like if you were to use like a yup schema on the front end, and then if you had Joy per se on the back end, like what does that look like in a Remix?
Yeah, so input validation. So I didn't actually show anything like that. All I did was I had some validation on, and it was just like required or not. Like, did you submit the value or did you not? And if it was missing, then I put a flash message in the session and said, hey, you need to give us that. I've never actually used Joy, but I know it's quite popular. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but it's as far as sharing validation goes, I agree that I think you need to do. I think it's best when it's done in both places if possible, right? Because just doing it in one is
I got something to add to that, Michael.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So when JavaScript's on the page, Remix is just emulating what the browser does with the post and everything, and like fetching the data again. But if you just think about, like, ignore the server, just pretend like you wrote all this code yourself in React, all that's happening is there's a component that's mounted. You submit the form, you serialize the form, send it to an API route. API route sends back session data, and then you're still on the same page. We redirected to the same spot. And so the way that I think about validation now in this model is you can just do it on the server, and you get all the benefits of the client validation, unless like you're doing it on keystroke. But you could, on Blur, you could like submit a partial form to the server and tell the server, hey, this is partial, so it doesn't like validate the whole thing. Or on submit, it goes to the server and then comes back, and you can animate in the errors. You can have a spinning loader. Like it kind of changes.
Yeah,
you get it
that's
right
awesome.
at the old way, right? You get it right at the old way. You just validate on the server, but you get to do all the cool UI stuff on the front end, because all it is a fetch and a set state from the React perspective.
Yeah, that's why I was asking about Cloudflare specifically, because I was curious about the deploy target and what libraries would actually be usable there. Because, for example, Joy is just the validation library, whatever, right? It's supposed to have browser built in, but it won't work on a web worker target. Yup, obviously will. So from my perspective, I think about like, well, what tools do I use now? What does that transition path look like, especially if I want to stay in my same ecosystem? And that's why I kind of asked, because that's the only like gotcha in my brain that I don't quite understand is who's in control of the validation. And if it's the server, that's fine, but that helps a lot.
Yeah,
I was thinking like, oh, you have them shared.
You can just have validation functions, like ignoring Joy or whatever libraries we're talking about. You can just have validation functions right there in the route module that you call inside the component on use effect or use submit or something, and then use it in the loader as well. And like it doesn't even feel like it's in two different places. You just got a function that validates text.
That's incredible.
Love that.
Any other questions? Good question.
Where can people get involved? Obviously, you have the Remix server, which I think we can easily get a link to and post that in there for anybody who's interested. But are there other ways that you're requesting involvement for people who are interested?
Oh, that's a great question. We are, like I said, we're still in just this like supporter preview mode, and I think Ryan and I we've been keeping it kind of close, just to make sure that we kind of, because I feel like we've got this vision for it, and sometimes our visions aren't even like the same thing, and so we still have to like get on the same page, but I think definitely as it matures, I think we'll definitely be able to sort of open it up more and ask for more contributions. For right now, the things that are public are the starters. So we've had some people getting involved there, and the docs very soon are going to be public, and so we'll have some people be able to get involved there. The source code right now for Remix, obviously the router has been public for years now, and we still need to get V6 over the finish line. So that's a great place to get involved too. If you're interested in more of writing the code side of things. Yeah, and then we've got our our Discord server, which I'd be happy to have anybody here who wants to join there. Be happy to send you the link to that. Can you think of anything else, Ryan?
I mean, I'm just going to be super candid. We really just need support through buying licenses. We don't really need involvement of like, hey, help us write this code. Like, this is it's not open source. So we wouldn't request people come and write our company's intellectual property for us.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the best way to support us right now. Is even if you don't think you're going to use it, if you got $250 to spare, that helps keep us in business until we can get this 1.0 out.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I have a license.
We need a Discord ticker.
And
I'll start it. I'll buy one now, and then we can keep it rolling.
Yeah, it's great.
Brandon Dahl, or no, Brandon, what is his last name? Aweary.
Dale, I think. Dail.
He bought a license. He's like, hey, I bought a license. I'm not going to use it. I just wanted to support you guys for all the work you've done over the years. And then he started tinkering with it, and then all of a sudden built like this awesome journaling note-taking app. And he's like, I didn't intend to build anything, but it was just so much fun in Remix.
Yeah.
I couldn't help myself. So anyway, there's my sales pitch.
If you want to have fun and you have $250, then that's this is the place to spend it. Yeah, I think that's a good point. And where do people get that? Where do they buy it? It's just remix.run.
Remix.run.
And if you can also join the newsletter, it's been really quiet, but if you go to remix.run/newsletter, you can see my CSS bugs that I need to fix. But we're about to go crazy on the newsletter. We're getting really close to our 1.0 release. So you're going to start getting a lot of information from that newsletter. That's where we're going to primarily focus in the beginning. And then once we can kind of get established and get some revenue, then we'll be able to open up more stuff. And honestly, if we can do well enough, we're not against Remix one day being some form of open source. But we've just done open source so long that, and we know that it doesn't pay the bills. We're just trying to do something that pays the bills now.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Open source is great. You get a lot of people that appreciate your work and whatnot. Lovely time.
Hey, we wouldn't have had our training business without our open source. So indirectly, it can be very helpful there. But yeah,
I love that. I love it. And honestly, I cannot kind of say enough about the newsletter, because I think that it's easy to think of this as just a framework newsletter, but as we saw from Michael's presentation today, so much of what guides the API is just giving back control of Express, of the browser, all of these things. And I've learned a lot from the newsletter just about web development, about the fetch API, about responses, all that kind of stuff. So it's a really good newsletter from that perspective as well.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, hey, thanks again for having us on, and thanks everybody for tuning in. And maybe we'll do another one sometime and delve into some other stuff, because like I said, there's a billion things that we'd love to talk about, but just not enough time. But thanks again, and happy to have your feedback. If you have any, that just go ahead and shoot that over. I'd love to have it, because like I said, I'm supposed to do a talk on this next week, and I have no idea how I'm going to trim it down.
Nice, will do. Well, hey, for everyone who's still around, if you're checking this out on YouTube later, I hope that you enjoyed it. Thanks again, Michael, for hanging out and showing us all of this really cool stuff in Remix. Big URLs to go to is remix.run. If you want to check out what we're doing on the Discord server, it's events.lunch.dev/Discord. You can join us and hang out with us. And just hit these gents up with your questions. Thanks again, Michael. Thanks everyone for being here. We'll see you around. Peace.